Hello students, welcome back to the open course. So this is module 4, and in the last module we discussed the different layers of sun, how sun is made up of, okay, and the composition of solar radiation, what are the different components contained in the solar radiation was also discussed, okay, like UV, infrared, okay, visible radiation, like that. Then we defined what is solar constant and we found its value, and finally we also discussed the difference between diffused and direct solar radiation. Okay, so these were the discussion in the last module, and today we will see some other aspects of solar radiation, like what happens to the solar radiation when it enter the Earth atmosphere. Okay, in the Earth atmosphere, what happens to solar radiation? Okay, so first thing is that, as you know, there are different components like ultraviolet, visible, and infrared. Okay, so in which let's take one by one. What happens to ultraviolet? When ultraviolet enter into the Earth atmosphere, so it is absorbed by oxygen molecules and ozone molecules. Specifically, okay, so they have an affinity to absorb ultraviolet radiation. Affinity means ability to absorb ultraviolet, but not completely. To some extent, they are absorbed. Okay. Secondly, you have infrared radiation. So it is absorbed by water vapor. There is a lot of vapor in the atmosphere, water vapor. So that is absorbed by water vapor and carbon dioxide. And of course we have visible rays. You have violet, blue, indigo, up to red wavelength. So that is absorbed by not pure fully absorbed. It is scattered by different particles present. Of course we have clouds, we have dust particles, and still some amount reaches the Earth atmosphere or Earth surface, you can say. Okay, so absorption takes place in between in the atmosphere, till the remaining part reaches on the ground, and we will be making use of this remaining part, whichever is reaching on the Earth's surface, that is going to be utilized for various other our purposes, applications. Okay. So that part, whichever is reaching on the Earth's surface or on the sea level, that is usually called in the name called insolation. So insolation is formally defined like this. It is the total solar radiation received at any point on the Earth's surface. So that will be always a sum of direct solar radiation and diffuse solar radiation. We have two types, I have already told you, and this is known as insolation. This is a special name, insolation, or global radiation. This is another name of insolation, global radiation. That will be the sum of direct rays and diffuse rays. Okay. Of course, it will vary from place to place. Okay, it will vary from place to place, season to season. It is not like the solar constant. Solar constant, is a permanent constant, okay, independent of the place. But it is a value that depend on the place. And you can also define it as the total solar radiation energy received on a surface of unit area on the ground unit time. This is how it is formally defined. Total solar radiation energy received on a surface of unit area in unit time. Okay, this is also expressed in watts per meter, watts per meter square also. Okay, so it will vary from place to place. Okay, so that is shown here. Insolation at a given location on the Earth's surface depends on various factors. One is altitude of the sun. Altitude means it's an angle actually. At what angle, in the figure you can see, at what angle solar radiation reaches on the Earth's surface. Is it falling vertically, or is it falling some other angle, or is it falling slantedly? Mean at different angles. Vertical falling usually happens at the summers, heavy summer, say in the month of April or May. or at all other time, all other periods of time, for rays are falling at different angles. So this means the insolation will vary with the angles. Okay, so it is not a constant. And insolation also varies with the time of the day. Morning you have one level of insolation, noon you have another level, evening we have another level. And it also varies with season, of course. In monsoon season, insolation will be the lowest. And it also depends on latitude of the place. Latitude means at what you have, there are 180 latitudes. When the earth is divided into 180 latitudes, 90 parts in the upper atmosphere or northern hemisphere and 90 in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so at different latitudes, insolation will be different. For example, 0 degree latitude, the equator near Sri Lanka, there you will get the maximum insolation. And as you go to higher latitudes, you will reach the Europe-like countries where insolation will be the lowest. And when you reach the polar region, where minimum insolation is obtained. So latitude is also an important factor which decides the insolation at a place. Okay, so different factors we have seen. Okay, so it will vary. So the place which get the highest insolation will be of maximum utility. The place which get the highest insolation will be of maximum utility. So that is very important. The place is very important in harvesting solar radiation. And as already we have shown, these are the different factors that block solar radiation. Okay, so that must be also taken into account whenever you install or fix a device or a apparatus for harvesting solar radiation for any purpose. Maybe for heating purpose, maybe for solar, for panels installing through which you get the solar electricity, or any other purpose, for industrial purpose maybe. But this is very important. Okay, so these are the factors which may affect the solar radiation falling at that place. Okay, and here we are more concerned with the solar radiation measurement. We want to measure it because only when we measure we can find whether that place is useful or relevant for a particular application. Okay, so there are different methods to measure it, and the measurement is also important to decide the efficiency of the machine you are using. Suppose you have a solar current device or solar photovoltaic device. If you want to measure its efficiency, we must be able to measure the solar energy falling in that place. Okay, so different devices are used for measuring solar radiation. Okay, so let us get familiar ourselves with such devices. Okay, these are the two devices used for measuring solar energy on the earth. One is called a pyrheliometer. Okay, pronunciation is like that, pyrheliometer. This is used to measure direct beam radiation or direct solar energy. Second one is pyranometer. This is used to measure diffused solar radiation. One is for direct solar radiation and other one is for diffused solar radiation or indirect solar radiation measurement. So their designs are slightly different. Let us see one by one. This is a pyrheliometer. Okay, this is a telescope like structure. You can see solar radiation is used to measure direct rays. So direct rays fall into this cylindrical like structure, and at the bottom there is a black surface, a black body you can see. It is made up of some special material. Black body absorb all the heat energy. Whenever you use a black body, it's get heavily heated up. Suppose you stand in a sunlight by wearing some black blanket, you will readily get heated up. So that is the property of black material. So here also we have a black surface. So black surface get heated up. Okay, when it get heated up, so what happens? There is a device called thermocouple. Okay, thermocouple. We will very shortly see how it is working. A thermocouple will produce some current. So that current you can measure. So by measuring the current, you can find the intensity of solar radiation falling at that place. So pyrheliometer is an instrument used for the measurement of direct solar radiation. Okay, sunlight enter as I showed you earlier. the instrument through a window and is directed onto a thermocouple, which converts heat to an electrical current that can be recorded. So what is a thermocouple? We will see shortly. And this thermocouple will show you some voltage. That voltage you can convert in intensity. So this way you can measure the intensity of the solar radiation. So it is used for solar tracking system to keep the instrument aimed at the sun. So what does it mean? It means that it is usually connected with a solar panels. Okay, solar panels are used to produce solar current. So depending on the intensity of the solar radiation, the panel has to be rotated from morning to evening. Panel should be rotated. If you keep the panel to a particular direction, you will not get sunlight throughout the day. So you have to rotate it. So for rotating, you need a sensor. So pyrheliometer will act like a sensor. So by sensing maximum radiation available at any point, accordingly you can make rotation on the panel. Okay. So panel and pyrheliometer are interconnected. So proper rotation can be given to the panel according to the intensity measured in the pyrheliometer. So that is the meaning of solar tracking. Okay, you can rotate according to the intensity measured in the pyrheliometer. So special video on this will be shown to you later. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Okay, it can be rotated. So that is shown here. And I also told you about the thermocouples. Okay, thermocouple is nothing but two metals. Okay, two metal pieces, different metal pieces. One is A metal piece, one B. It can be, one can be copper, other can be iron. One can be zinc, other can be aluminum. Like that is combined. Thermocouple is a combination of two different metals. You can produce two junctions. Okay, one end here and one end here. What is the at one junction you can heat up. When you heat up, it will produce a current. It will produce a voltage. Such a setup is called a thermocouple. So inside this pyrheliometer also, okay. So you have seen the photograph here. Inside the pyrheliometer also, there is a such a thermocouple at the bottom. So when solar radiation falls on that junction, what happens? Okay, at this junction, current is produced. Okay, so this current can be measured inside. So that current is has a link with the solar radiation. So radiation is measured in terms of voltage. Okay, that can be noted. So that is why we said that thermocouple is used inside it. Okay, thermocouple, when heating is produced, current is produced. If there is no heating, then there is no current. Okay, so thermocouple is a device used to convert temperature difference in voltage. Thermocouples consist of two wire pieces made of different metals. These wires are welded together at both ends, called junctions, and these junctions are kept at different temperature. When the junction experiences a change in temperature, the voltage is created. So that voltage is a measure of the intensity of solar radiation. Okay, so this is how solar radiation is measured using thermocouple, and this is fitted inside that pyrheliometer. Okay. Another device is pyranometer. As I told you earlier, this is used to measure diffused radiation or indirect radiation. So there is some setup inside it. You can see the figure shows a pyranometer, how it looks like. Okay, there is a dome structure. So dome structure, you can see here glass. It's a dome, double dome. Okay, because it is given to avoid heat leakage. Double dome is given to it's an insulator. Okay, once the heat enter into it, it cannot go out. So that is why a double, just like in a vacuum flask, this is vacuum. Okay, so heat energy cannot go out. Once entered, it will remain inside. Okay, so again here also you can see a black surface. This is again connected to a thermocouple, but here only difference is that it don't measure the direct radiation. A shield is given here, shield disk is called a shield disk. Shield disk block direct radiation, but it measure indirect radiation. Okay, diffuse radiation, and the same principle is used here. The thermocouple inside, so thermo EMF is produced. That thermo EMF we can measure. Okay, so this is the working principle of a pyranometer. So this is used to measure diffused component of solar radiation. Okay, this is how the thermocouple looks actually inside it. These are junctions. They are called hot junctions. This is one metal, second metal, one metal, second metal, or we can say metal A, metal B, metal A, metal B, metal A, metal B. Their junctions are facing towards the sunlight. Why this setup is made? Because with a single thermocouple you cannot get enough voltage. So we are using a series of thermocouples and whose odd junctions are kept towards the solar radiation. So we can get a maximum voltage. It's called a thermo EMF. Thermo EMF. We get a maximum voltage that can be measured. Okay, so this is how a thermo EMF is working actually inside the pyrometer or pyrheliometer. In both devices, thermocouple is there. Okay, and I have told you different parts of a pyrometer. This dome limits the field of view, and another function of dome is that it shields thermopile sensor from convection. That means heat energy cannot go out, it will be trapped inside. That is the function of the dome, because once heat energy comes it should be trapped, and there is a black coating on the inside surface, and black coating is in contact with the junction of the thermocouple. If you have number of thermocouple, we call it thermopile. Yes, we have a series of thermocouple here, so we call it thermopile. So black coating is another important part of this, and the radiation is converted to heat from this black surface, and this heat flows to thermopile, which generates voltage, and that is proportional to the solar radiation. And a thermopile sensor, as I told you, thermocouple itself, and that is another thing. Okay, so this is how it looks like. For examination purpose, this diagram will be enough. For a pyrometer, black coating, and at the bottom line you can see the thermocouple, and dome is there. It is to protect and heat trapping. Once heat comes, it cannot go out. So the role of the dome is to trap the heat, and this is how it really looks like. Okay, so this figure shows you that. Okay, so I think these are clear, and these are the questions to be answered. Give briefly the working principle of a pyrheliometer. So you can hear rough diagram of pyrheliometer and you write the principle, working principle in brief, or you can simply go to Google also, you will get the working in detail. Please try to get it from the Google. What are the main parts of a pyrheliometer that I have showed you, so you write about it. Thirdly, differences between pyrheliometer and pyrheliometer. What are the differences? This also you can Google out, you will get very good answers, impressive answers, but you confine all your answers in a single A4 sheet, okay, or maximum 2 A4 sheets. Don't go beyond that. So try all these 3 questions. Okay, I hope you have understood all the theories, simple theories, but very interesting theories. So with this, let us conclude today's discussion. Thank you.